The day I was supposed to leave the United States and start my dream job in London. My parents stole my passport. I didn't realize it until I reached the airport. My suitcase was packed. My boarding pass was printed. My future was only a few hours away. But as I opened my handbag at the airline counter, my heart stopped. My passport was gone. I searched every pocket, every zipper, every compartment. Nothing. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the airline employee said politely. "Without your passport, we can't check you in." I felt my hands begin to shake. "There has to be a mistake," I whispered. "There isn't." I stepped away from the counter and called my mother. She answered on the first ring. "Looking for something, Athena?" she asked with a laugh. My stomach dropped. "You took it." "We did," she replied calmly. Then my father picked up the extension. "You're not leaving this country." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I earned this job!" I shouted. "I've worked for this my entire life." "You belong here," my father replied coldly. "No daughter of mine is moving across the ocean." The call ended, just like that. I stood in the middle of one of the busiest airports in America, watching passengers rush toward the gates while my own future slipped away. I wanted to cry. Instead, I ran. I sprinted toward the airport police office, desperate for help. An officer listened patiently before shaking his head. "If your passport was taken by a family member, we'll need to verify a few things before we can act." I looked at the departure board. Final boarding, 22 minutes. 22 minutes. That was all I had left before the opportunity. I'd spent years fighting for disappeared forever. I felt completely hopeless. Then I heard a voice behind me. "Athena?" I turned around. A Customs and Border Protection officer was staring at me. He looked familiar, but I couldn't remember why. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked with a smile. I slowly shook my head. He reached into his wallet and pulled out an old newspaper clipping. It showed a photo of me from nearly 10 years earlier. I froze. "I never forgot your name," he said quietly. My heart began pounding. How could a federal officer know me? Before I could ask another question, he looked at the airport police officer and said words that would change everything. "I know exactly who she is, and I think it's time someone told her the truth about her family." I stared at the customs officer, completely speechless. My boarding time was getting closer. The departure board now showed only 18 minutes until the gate closed. Yet somehow, everything else suddenly felt unimportant. The officer extended his hand. "My name is Daniel Brooks." His expression wasn't one of surprise. It was one of recognition. "I've been hoping we'd meet again one day." I frowned. "I'm sorry. Have we met before?" He nodded slowly. "No. But I met someone who loved you more than anything." A strange chill ran through my body. "What do you mean?" Daniel looked around the crowded terminal before leading me into a quieter office near the customs checkpoint. He closed the door. Then he removed a small envelope from a locked drawer. My name was written on the front. Athena Carter. The handwriting looked familiar. Painfully familiar. My hands trembled. "Who gave you this?" He took a deep breath. "Your grandfather." I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. "My grandfather died when I was 12. Daniel nodded. "I know. He came through this airport a week before he passed away. He told me that if a young woman named Athena ever appeared here trying to leave the country, I should give her this." Tears filled my eyes. My grandfather had always encouraged my dreams. He was the only person in my family who believed I could build a life beyond my parents. Control. But how could he know I'd be here? Daniel looked at me sadly. "Because he knew your parents. He knew exactly what they were capable of." My heart started racing. "What are you talking about?" He hesitated for a moment before answering. "He believed they'd eventually try to stop you from leaving." I slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, and a small silver key taped to the back. The letter began with words that instantly broke my heart. "My dearest Athena, if you're reading this, your parents finally did what I feared they would." My vision blurred with tears. "They have spent years trying to control your future because they're hiding something from you." I looked up at Daniel. "What are they hiding?" He remained silent. Instead, he handed me another document. It was a certified copy of an old legal record. My father's signature was at the bottom. So was my mother's. But the third signature didn't belong to either of them. I had never seen that name before. Daniel spoke quietly. "Athena, I don't think the people who raised you have ever told you the whole truth. Before I could ask another question, my phone began ringing again. It was my father. I answered without speaking. His voice was calm, almost confident. "You can stop looking for your passport," he said. "You'll never leave this country." I looked down at my grandfather's letter, then back at the mysterious document in my hands. For the first time in my life, I realized my parents weren't just trying to stop my flight. They were trying to stop me from discovering who I really was. My hands trembled as I stared at the unfamiliar signature on the legal document. I looked at Officer Daniel. "Who is this?" He took a slow breath. "Before I answer that, you need to know why your parents were so desperate to keep you here." He opened the folder and placed several documents on the table. Birth records, court filings, adoption papers. Every page carried official government stamps. My heart pounded. "No," I whispered. "This can't be real." Daniel looked at me with sympathy. "I'm afraid it is." He pointed to one page. "The people who raised you are your legal parents." I nodded. "I know that. But they're not your biological parents." The room began to spin. For 28 years, I believed I knew exactly who I was. In one sentence, everything changed. Daniel continued carefully. "You were adopted when you were only 18 months old." I could barely breathe. My parents told me my mother gave birth to me. "They lied," he replied quietly. Then he handed me another sealed file. "Your biological mother was an American diplomat stationed overseas. After a tragic accident, your grandfather became your legal guardian. When his health declined, he arranged your adoption with people he believed he could trust." My eyes filled with tears. "So, my grandfather knew?" Daniel nodded. "He discovered the truth years later. He realized your adoptive parents had become obsessed with controlling your inheritance and your future. I remembered every opportunity they had destroyed, the universities they refused to let me attend, the jobs they made me reject, the friends they pushed away. They never wanted me to become independent. They wanted me to remain dependent on them forever." Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. A notification appeared. "Flight BA-178, final boarding. Only 9 minutes remained." Daniel stood up. "There's one more thing." He opened the small silver key from my grandfather's letter. "It belongs to a safety deposit box. Everything your grandfather wanted you to know is inside." Before I could respond, the airport office door burst open. My parents rushed inside with 2 security officers behind them. "There she is," my father shouted. "She's trying to steal confidential family documents." Several people in the terminal turned to look. My mother pointed directly at me. "Officer, she's mentally unstable." "Don't let her leave!" For a split second, the room fell silent. Then Daniel calmly reached into his pocket, removed his official badge, and faced the security officers. "I'm the lead Customs and Border Protection officer assigned to this terminal." He held up the legal documents. "These records have already been verified." He looked directly at my parents. "And if either of you attempts to interfere with this passenger again, you'll be answering questions under federal law." The confidence disappeared from my father's face. For the first time, he realized he couldn't control what happened next. And neither could I, because the biggest secret of my life was only minutes away from being revealed. The airport terminal became eerily quiet. My parents stood frozen. For years, they had controlled every decision I made with fear, guilt, and lies. But this time, none of those tricks worked. Officer Daniel looked at the security officers and calmly said, "Ms. Athena is a lawful traveler. She has every right to leave. Her emergency travel documents have already been approved." I stared at him in disbelief. "My passport." He smiled. "The State Department issued an emergency replacement after we verified your identity." My eyes filled with tears. "You did all that for me?" "I did it," he replied, "because your grandfather asked one thing of me." He handed me a copy of the letter. At the bottom, my grandfather had written, "If Athena ever reaches this airport, don't let fear steal her future. Help her find the life she deserves." I couldn't stop crying. For the first time in my life, someone had chosen to protect my dreams instead of controlling them. My father stepped forward. "Athena, if you board that plane, don't ever come back." His voice was cold, demanding, the same voice that had frightened me since I was a little girl. But it didn't frighten me anymore. I looked him straight in the eyes. "I've spent my whole life trying to earn your approval." I paused. "Today I'm choosing my freedom instead." My mother reached for my arm. "Please, we're still your family." I gently stepped back. Family doesn't steal your passport. Family doesn't destroy your future. Family doesn't keep you trapped. Neither of them had an answer. The loudspeaker echoed through the terminal. Final call for British Airways Flight 178 to London. Daniel smiled. You should go. I picked up my suitcase, wiped away my tears, and started walking toward the gate. With every step, I felt lighter. Years of fear, years of manipulation, years of control were finally behind me. Just before boarding, my phone vibrated one last time. A message from my father appeared. You'll regret this. I looked at the screen for a moment, then deleted the message without replying. Several months later, I unlocked the safety deposit box using my grandfather's silver key. Inside were family records, personal letters, photographs, and legal documents proving that he had created a trust fund for my education and future, one my adoptive parents had tried to keep hidden. With that evidence, I reclaimed what had always been meant for me and finally closed that painful chapter of my life. Today, I live in London with a career I love and a life I built on my own terms. Sometimes the greatest journey isn't crossing an ocean. It's finding the courage to walk away from the people who never wanted you to fly. And the day my parents stole my passport, they accidentally gave me something far more valuable, my freedom.